Welcome back to the In the Woods podcast. It's me, Sarah, here today with Lane and Pastor Crae. And we can't wait to dive into whatever this podcast is going to be.
What you missed before we hit record is there's apparently some moods in the room. We're in a mood. Some of us are in a mood. And so...
Just say it. Crae's in a mood.
Crae's in a mood. And so Crae was about to share with us...
No.
How a South African gets out of the mood.
No, it's not about getting out of it. I think it's about identifying it and redirecting it.
Yeah.
So give them context before.
Yeah. Context is, again, feeling in any given moment just what you described as righteous anger about things in general. Is there anything more you want to give us where that, and you don't have to give us necessarily what you're righteously angry about.
You're not even looking at Crae.
knowing how to recognize what it is, where it's coming from. Your question was to identify it. Before we hit record, and I said, stop, let's talk about this on camera. Your question was, how do you define righteous anger? Is that what you asked me?
What is its place?
What is its place?
If we were to come out of it, what does that look like, and where do you what is stewarding righteous anger well? Because it exists, and I think it exists for good reason. I think it's God-given. But I also think that just living and churning within it turns into being ineffective and not being loving. So what is the line between just becoming an angry person and using righteous anger as a catalyst to actually implement a change or a shift that the Lord has put in your heart? And I don't know.
Yeah. So what do you say to that? What would your thoughts be? It's interesting. And I have some thoughts, but I want to wait. So
I think we got pushed. So I'm not angry at the moment.
Yes.
I'm just...
Nobody's mad here.
Nobody's mad. I'm just in
Monday
an
morning,
I'm
we're
interesting
just dialoguing.
space. And I think going to righteous anger, Sarah was like, wow, that we went to another space
sorry.
here. So I don't think I'm not
righteous
angry.
Mood.
Yeah, I'm righteous mood. I think I'm finding I'm in a space, and I think it's, again, always linked with calling. For me, it's like, what am I here doing? What is my call here at Woodland for the season? What am I doing? And I think when you're wrestling with that, and then you get kind of in the space that I'm in with how I'm preaching and how I'm teaching, I think I'm in a bit of a aggressive approach to preaching, which is it's not a bad thing. It's just like I feel like I'm walking through the, when you start saying, so I said something yesterday that I think I got a very shocked look from the congregation. I said, we use Sunday like a morphine shot to get through the week instead of actually dealing with our sin and being transformed into his likeness. We come and we rotate ourselves into Sunday, and it's like gets us through the week. We have our moment on a Sunday. So you could basically, I suppose, call that righteous anger. But all the sermons that I've done over the last month and a bit, I need to almost pull back a little bit and be like, these people actually need to get to know me as well as just walking through here and getting slapped around and then leaving and feeling, jeepers, this is what we're going to get every week, So I kind of feel like that's navigating that is navigating righteous anger, is navigating. I'm just going to run ahead of Jesus, and because it is the right thing to do, instead of, wait. What is Jesus wanting me to do in this moment right now? And I think there's a difference, and it kind of links with the sermon from yesterday, is like remaining yoked, because you can be yoked to Jesus and still be trying to pull in the opposite direction. And all you're doing is putting more strain on yourself. And I can kind of get the sense that when I'm sharing a message, And then I come out the pulpit and I'm a very different person, and they're like, we don't connect the dots there. Like you've just been quite harsh, and now you're all loving and kind, and like they, so it's just it's a management of that. Jesus had his moments. We know what he did in the temple and all of that, but people knew him before that. Does that make sense? Whereas I feel nobody knows me here.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in,
that makes sense.
okay, and they're going, is this who he is?
Yeah.
Instead of actually the heart posture is, no, he loves us and therefore he's going to do this.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
It does. I was going to say for context too, for people that maybe aren't watching this every week. So your first 2 weeks have been Matthew chapter 11, and your first week was all about unmet expectations.
Yeah, well, Deline and I shared last week,
Yep.
but remember I started in Matthew 9 actually.
yeah.
So I've been it's been just over a month now. I did have a week in the middle of not preaching, but so it's just for me it's a management thing, and it's a heart posture that I want people to get to know, not just that side of what God is calling me to do and change and disrupt the comfort of the church, without them going, okay, wait, he's doing this with the right heart, not just for the sake of ripping off the Band-Aid. There's a heart posture here that I feel, and that can only be felt out by coming back to the heart of God and going, okay, wait, the calling is there, but if it's not done in a systematic, correct approach, it can be very destructive, which is not righteous in and of itself, right? So that's the space. I'm sitting here this morning, and this is where the conversation started. Is like I'm kind of like just within myself of like wrestling between what I'm called to do and how to go about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to process. You and I are in similar spaces because we're both newer staff members. Newer staff members unite. We're both a month-ish in. I'm known around these parts, but known differently than the position that I'm in now. And you're unknown, and so much of what you're doing is kind of setting that stage. It's interesting. I'm listening to you wrestle with the desire to present this section that we're in as a church, and of course, some of that is where we've decided to go.
Yeah.
How to balance those things from the pulpit versus. And what you haven't gotten a ton of time to do, just those personal connections. It's just interesting because my tension doesn't rest, I guess, in the same places. But I tend to be someone who really loves what I have loved the last couple times that I've gotten to preach. But it's really kind of where we are in Matthew. What I've loved is how much of it, in a quick reading, always feels like Jesus talking to this religious elite over here. And we've talked about this in the last few weeks, which we oftentimes want to be like, oh yeah, those guys. And then he'll talk to those that need him, and we'll very quickly be like, yeah, that's me. And what I've loved is the gray space in between, where I'm like, no, actually, the reason why this is like stepping on my toes a little is that actually I think I've got some of those pharisaical tendencies, and I want to be the person that's coming like a child open-handed. But actually, I've got my list of expectations and the way that I see God defined, and the way, and to your question maybe about righteous anger, I think the thing that is always interesting for me is the places that I might find some of that welling up in me is oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes a reflection on my own places that I need to I need to still like work on putting to death the idols that I've created, the expectations that I've created. I am someone, you wouldn't know this about me at the stage of life that you guys have known me in, but young Lane, Lane in his teens and 20s was someone who did not know how to...
Sorry to tell you, but 30s as well.
Well, did not know how to control my anger in a righteous and holy way. I did not know how to do that. The presence of anger and frustration in my life at a young age and into my 20s, early marriage, early parenting, I did not know how to navigate that well. We'd say this jokingly. So my Scottish heritage, my Scottish blood, and my brother is the same way. Like, we're good until we're not good, and then we're not good. And so there's like this place that I have to always, even still in I'm 48 now, and as I've gotten older, I found a better balance to this, but like not letting what I might say, well, there's a justified reason why I feel that way, but I have such a tendency for anger to be such a driving force if I'm not careful, that finding a way to do that in a way that's godly and God honoring is actually a real challenge for me. Yeah. It can be a very dangerous place for me if I'm not careful. Now I say all of that, and then I say, which then is why sometimes what I love about preaching. So you and I both got to preach yesterday through the last 5 verses of Matthew 11, and what I love in prepping messages like that is that I'm really just preaching to myself for 40 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I am so called to task by verses that Christ is like, it's not until you learn just this beautiful dependence like a child that you even understand that the kingdom is for those who are just fully aware of their need for a savior. That's like the constant running message that I remind myself, because I have such a proclivity to try to do it on my own, to try to self-manage, self-sustain, or be justified in my anger. And I just love to get yelled at by Scripture sometimes. And I love it when Jesus just punches me in the teeth, because those are places that I need to be reminded of my desperate need for him. And so I love the angry texts sometimes because I'm prepping for myself, man. I'm just preaching to myself.
Well, I mean, and again, it goes back to yesterday. Jesus was preaching to me while I'm preaching. Yeah. It's like, here's this morphine shot thing that I say. And then Jesus is like, well, how yoked are you to me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. So in the middle of this calling that you feel like you really are, this is what God has ordained, right? And then you become all self-righteous instead of, and then he says that to you in the middle of a sermon while you're also trying to navigate contextual things and saying things like when the tacky hits the tar and people get this glazed look over your face. And I'm like, we don't know each other yet.
Yeah.
And here I'm trying, and then the minute the self-righteousness kicks in, then it's like I say things and you can see them disengage. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, Crae, that's you stepping in. Who are you yoked to?
Connect tacky tar for our American audience.
Tacky tar is like when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah. Very common phrase for us.
Exactly, but it's not. It means exactly the same thing. It means, but the first thing Kurt says to me this morning when he walks through the door is like, just explain to me what did you mean by that weird thing, tacky hits the tar? It's like a running shoe hits the tar. It's like when you start to do the work, when you actually start to put the running shoes on and get onto the road and actually do the work. It's the same thing. It's like when the tire hits the road.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with that, and then I'm dealing with my self-righteousness in this is what I'm called to do, and then God's like, okay, but how about you assess who you are yoked to?
Yeah.
And who are you doing this in, and who are you doing this through? And that's the struggle. It's like, it's a hard thing. It's like, yes, 100% called to disrupt the church in a righteous way, because you can also do that destructively. But what is the heart behind it, and whose heart am I doing that in? Is it Crae's heart because that's what I see and I want to justify? Or is it in righteous anger that God's going, this has to change. Let's do it at the right pace, in love, in righteousness. You know, so I can't go there without having the relationship first. Does that make sense? So I think they've got a taste of this. I have to not pull the handbrake up completely and stop the car, but just monitor myself and allow the Spirit to do that monitoring in me, that I don't burn relationships before they've even started. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think, too, like, one of the most challenging things of the fleshly human experience is when we seek God and we ask Him to download His heart into us. It is downloaded into this limited vessel with an eternal spirit.
Speak for yourself, Sarah.
Inside.
I'm just kidding.
And I don't even mean this in like a super metaphorical way. Like when the things of God are poured into you, you know, which is by our request, and we feel the mourning of God for the things that are happening in our culture. We feel some of the anger of God, which I think we also have a limited idea of what anger is, because His anger is also motivated by love and our not living life to the fullness in which He created us to live it. And what the result of that is a very literally physical feeling of wrestling. I mean, that pit in your stomach that comes with the feeling of human urgency. And so to mix that eternal heart of God that He's given you a glimpse of with the sensation that it gives a lot of us who seek Him, it's hard to know what to do with that, because in human urgency, like, in order to get that wrestling and that churning out of your stomach, we have to act, right?
Yep.
Which God does not call us to know the scope of His plan and to know the scope of His anger, nor even to put His anger on our own shoulders and, you know, walk it out. He does call us to live life in that daily bread manner, which is simply obedience. But when you're someone who's trying to walk that out and you have that literal, like, pit in your stomach, physical pit in your stomach from the things that God has put in your heart, it's hard to know what to do with that, because walking, even with the seed of what God has placed in you, walking it with human feet and running in a direction that He hasn't called you to or whatever, can result in you, you know, maybe inflicting pain or, you know, the picture that comes to my mind is like, okay, say there's this big tree that has to come down. It has to come down. And you have a plastic axe, you know, and you have that churning in your stomach of, I've got to get that tree down. But the only thing that you're going to do in getting that wrestling out of your system is hurt your body, break your axe. And, you know, maybe the Lord gave you the knowledge that it needs to fall, but He didn't ask you to. You know,
well, here's the scary thought. So put it in the context of Saul, King Saul, not Saul to Paul, the other Saul. He technically did what God required of him, except he didn't do it to the full. So here he is. He goes and he defeats the Amalekites, and he does what he's like. God's like, wipe them out, and he does that. But he keeps the sheep and the goats as a sacrifice to God. He's like,
good intentions.
Good intentions. Like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. He takes the calling, and this is where I'm wrestling. He takes the calling, and he inserts his leadership, and he says, but this is for God. And then the righteous anger the anger becomes justified.
Yeah.
And God and he takes his hand off. That's the dangerous place, because it's the fine line of leadership. It's like as leaders, we're called to see the end. We're like, this is what it should be like. This is what this is what God has called me to do, and this is where I'm wrestling. Is like the discomfort is what He's called me to. So I know what they need, but I'm not putting the again, yoking myself to Jesus and going step by step with Him, and I'm taking the axe to the tree, and I'm like, this tree's got to come down. Not the church, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In your context of what you were speaking about, Saul's like, I know what I've got to do. I've got to wipe them out, but I'm gonna serve God in this way by disobeying Him. But it's like a weird mix, and that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, I know what I need to do, but if I'm doing it with my intentions instead of how God intends me to do it, the thing I fear the most is that He removes His hand from me. Can you imagine that space? And I'm like, So that's the thing that's holding me at the moment, is like, do it in the way God is calling me to do it, step by step now. Build the relationships, do the stuff that takes the time. This will happen when it's ready to happen, and I will feel that out when this is right. I'm trying to put the cart before the horse,
People know what that means in America. We get it.
You can see my brain going. I'm like, I'm going to say this. Is this right? And you'll constantly hear me say, you understand what I'm saying? Or I'll say that at the end of sentences so that people can...
I'm really asking, does that make sense?
Yes, does that make sense? Anyway.
That's so good. So I had this idea, again, back to the point of even what our messages was about. Messages were about
we haven't even got to the actual...
Which is fine.
I keep talking about the yoke.
No. That if... So what you're describing with Saul, with your own, I know that this is where eventually we need to go, but I also want to be obedient. I wonder sometimes, if that healthy fear doesn't exist, the moment you think you've got God figured out, I just wonder if that's actually the place that you ought never try to land. And if that tension, because if childlike dependence, I don't think I've ever really found the real root of all of that until I had to preach on it. Because everything I leaned into last week was this, you're missing the point if you just think it's come to me like a kid's, because kids trust. No, kids, their entire framework is centered around dependence on those around them, right? And in this really beautiful way, the moment you start becoming self-dependent, you are no longer like a child in the kingdom. And the thing that I remember as I was prepping last week that was such the light bulb moment is that it's never about graduating into dependence, that everything from a pastoral role to just daily life with Christ is consistent, full dependence. The moment you become that 13-year-old that doesn't really need help in this area anymore, or the 30-year-old that doesn't really want to ask for help because I can do it. The moment you become self-dependent in the small areas, and I think that's the thing too, is that we oftentimes think, that life with Christ is like this emotive moment of conversion, and now I'm life with Christ. Life with Christ, the deeper you go, the more you recognize how desperately I need you. And for me, it's in all of these little areas. It's not on the big stuff. It's in the small areas where I'm just not trusting you in this. And so as you were...
Stop preaching to me.
I know, I'm just saying, as you were saying that, it was like this reminder of, I'm celebrating your lack of not knowing because the moment you've found a place of self-dependence where God's like, no, I'm keeping you in the tension because I want you to be constantly wondering, because when you do that, you're going to return to me. And when you return to me, I'm just going to give you that loving father's embrace of like, hey, maybe you don't have this figured out right now, and that's just okay.
Yeah.
Just be faithful to my word. Just be faithful to the thing that I've called you to do. The moment you become dependent, we're in a different place.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was
Absolutely. But how about the opposite being true as well?
Come on.
Is these people have no idea who I am.
yeah.
There's absolute freedom in that. In one sense of the word, okay? I can't, when I say this, I don't mean I can say whatever I like.
Nah.
But I could literally say whatever I like. And they're like, oh, it must be his
Well, yeah, you have an identity.
cultural context. I have an identity that at the moment is separate from them. And I'm like, yeah, there's this freedom in here. I can say what I like, and there's no relationships. Which is helpful, but also dangerous place to be because I have no context. So, and I'm wrestling with this understanding of how far is too far.
Yeah. That's good.
It's interesting.
It's good.
Anyway.
Darn these new careers.
Oh, I thought you were going to say these new guys on the block.
Well, that's what I mean. And these new guys on the podcast. It does. Again, as I try to think about just the ways, if the word is true and it applies in all areas, just all of the ways that, you're in a new season right now and you're figuring out what that obedience looks like and that daily dependence. And you're coming off of, kind of the high end daily, I need this, get me this. And you're finding a bit more of space maybe to just be. I'm curious for you where dependence is in a space where you've got a lot more headroom than you've probably had in quite a few years.
I'm definitely learning to rest right now. I'm learning that productivity, like I could, preach a sermon on how productivity doesn't get you closer to the Lord.
Let's do it. Next week. Reverend Sarah.
But I've learned that my flesh necessarily doesn't believe that.
Woodland. It's just been bugging me, sorry.
What?
Nothing, carry on.
Just wonder what your coffee
At
cup
least you
says.
fixed it. Oh, yes. I made this coffee cup. So, yeah, I've definitely been wrestling with that. Just where, I don't know, I'm trying to even describe it well. But my tendency, even in this season, of just taking a step back, taking some much needed, just genuine physical rest. Grief is extremely physically taxing. So even just taking some time to let my nervous system find its way back to
absolutely
normal-ish. Really seeking God of like, how am I supposed to apply the skills that I have used and acquired over the last 10 years of being at the church, and are those the skills that you want me to use in the next season? And then wrestling with the fact of like, if he says no to that, like, then what, so I think I just have a lot of fear of the future. If I'm just honest of where the Lord's taken me, and not knowing if my wrestling inside is because he's asking me to jump back in and do something, or if I'm just trying to quiet that need to be productive. And I genuinely have a hard time telling the difference between the two. I do know when the Lord is pulling me to something. Like, I do know when he is releasing me from something. Like, he completely released me from being on staff here, even in a time that it didn't necessarily, I didn't need to step down. There wasn't just a big reason. But in my spirit, there was certainly it's time to step away. And I had to really work to release this job, and he's been faithful to me in it, but
I think there's something deeper there. It's not just relinquishing a job; it's relinquishing a piece of yourself when it's ministry that is different to any other job on the planet.
That's fair.
And you can fight with me, send me some comments, send me an email. But ministry
it's Pete at woodlandchurch.com. All emails can be sent
in that direction. No, but it's ministry becomes a part of your soul
Sure.
Whether you like it or not, that's just the reality of ministry. And I remember being in that space. You're giving me cold shivers when you're talking about this stuff now, 2 years ago, where I had to get to the point of saying to God, if my role within ministry, defined as in job box, okay, so not volunteerism, but a defined box, is over, am I okay with that? And I had to wrestle with that. So if you've called me out of ministry and that season of my life is over as a full-time job, and you want me to go and, not that there's anything wrong with any of this, go and work at Walmart, go and work at Home
Something
Depot,
different.
just go take myself out of it for the second half of my life. What does that speak to Crae's soul? And how do I engage in that space? And I had to get to the point, and I don't think I ever did, because, like I say, it's a piece of your soul. You can't separate yourself.
Yep.
I would have expressed it in another way of ministry, but I had to get to the point of, if this is over, do I still have peace in my soul? And there's a difference. And you're in that space, and I'm not going to define that for you, whether it's over forever or that's between you and Jesus. Godspeed with that. But you're in that space of, hey, I've been in ministry, paid full time, all the things that go with that, for 10 years. That's a decade of your life.
Yeah.
That is like, this is what I've known. This is what your identity gets roped into it. Everything gets roped into it. Now it gets ripped off like a Band-Aid, and you're like, okay, now what? So I don't envy you in that space, but I can relate to that understanding of, if Jesus says, that's it, let's go do something else. I'm going to use you in another sphere. It's like, can you get to the point of going, okay, like, I can accept that. And that's difficult.
And just fully existing in the waiting period too, because
Which people are terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as we're terrible at the waiting period.
and I don't think he just calls us to endure it either. Like, we'll just endure the waiting, just try to,
Learn to love it.
bear down in the wilderness. I don't want to do that, because my soul has also craved some time to just, like, I want to wake up in silence and read my Bible, but I also just feel like that voice in my head that's like, what a privilege it is to not have to go to work. I don't know, so I'm wrestling between a few things, but when I've actually given it to the Lord, and I'm like, okay, I know when I hear your voice, you know when you're speaking to me, and I'm going to unfurl my hands and rest today, and not shame myself that my certain skill sets aren't producing an income, which is sometimes what we can call fruit. And,
Here's my arms are standing up. Yeah.
Preach.
a dollar does not equal fruit. So, but if I let go of all of the me parts of it, I've loved it. It's been a sacred space for me. I have met with the Lord in ways that I never could have. Like, even just this experience of grief I've met the Lord in ways that I couldn't fathom ever finding him, So I've been thankful for so much of it when I actually just chill out, as we say in America.
There's a whole nother podcast around suffering and mourning that anyway.
It's been precious.
Well, I was going to say, again, it's interesting as we just sometimes start talking, like my other sort of revelation here is that the three of us are actually each in very intentional transition times in our life. I'm coming off of 25 years of public education, and you want to talk about an identity.
Yeah.
Like everything, my wife was just saying this on we take our walk every night together. It's just such a sacred time between the two of us, and we just talk. And sometimes we don't talk. Sometimes we're just on our phone shopping on Amazon, but we're together. Like whatever, we're just together because she'll be like, "Oh, I need to get whatever." But last night we were talking, and this interesting feeling, and it's a good feeling, but this interesting feeling of, for the first time in 2.5 decades, not feeling like the beginning of August, is this major shift and transition as a teacher where I have to start to come off of the feeling of rest and start to plug back into what it means to bear down for the next 9 months and pull kids on a daily basis into the places that we're going to go. But I'm excited about not feeling that angst, but I would be lying if I didn't say there is not a part of me, an identity that feels like it is going to be missing when school starts and I'm not. I mean, dude, I'm like the king of the kingdom when I close the door and it's my space because I know where we're going every day and I know what we're doing and I've got there's a bit of identity, I think, that is genuinely going to be lost. There's going to be really great things. My wife and we celebrated 25 years in May, but we're going to go at the 1st of September to Hawaii. We're going to travel in the off season for the first time ever in our adult lives. We've never... It's always been June through mid-August is the only time we ever go do anything, and we just crammed it all in for 25 years. So there's going to be aspects of that I'm super excited for, but there is this interesting feeling that I'm going to have again, where like there will be. I'm now only a couple years away from like kind of being unknown by students at a school that I just gave 25 years of my life to. Sure. And I don't need that, but that's a weird feeling. That's a weird feeling. For 25 years, did you have LG for English, or did you have, that was my name at school because my brother teaches there as well. So Mr. Gordon doesn't work. So I'm LG, he's KG. Any Lakeview student that's ever had us, that's like, did you have LG for theater or English? I'm a few years away from that, just like not even being a thing. That's a weird feeling. I'm not sad about it. I feel like I'm in the right place. I feel like I totally made the right choice to retire from teaching, to step on to staff here. But it is, those transition periods are weird. And I'm in a very real one in these next couple weeks, because this is, for a teacher, you're August 1 up to that, first day back. This is a total heart and mind shift that I am not feeling right now. And that's a weird thing for me. There's a lot of identity that's been wrapped up in that.
Maybe you need to focus on the fruit of it though, instead of the process of it. So, Facebook and social media can really be the meanest beast out of the lot of them. Yeah. But it can also be a blessing when you keep watching the kids that have passed through your doors. Yeah. When they start getting married and they do life, and you see the fruit of your labor. Yeah. It's the same on the other side. I'm watching things from the other side of the world, and I'm going, how dare you move on?
Without
me. You know what I mean? Like, cheap as people. Like, it's only 2 years, and and life goes on for everybody. But I see the fruit of ministry in their lives that bears the test of time. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I get to hold on to. Yes, the church starts to deviate and look at like something else, and all those things happen. But the people that I've impacted, or that God has used me to impact, you see the ministry in their lives, and you're like, some of them have gone into ministry. Some of them, you see God playing things out in their lives, and you're like, he got that message that I preached there, and it's stuck with him, and I can see it at work, So look at the fruit sometimes, and don't get stuck in that place of like, I missed the space, because the space is just a space. Yeah,
well, and that'll be the new shift for me, because to your point, 25 years has been full of a ton of fruit. My kids will laugh at me. There is not a place that we go as a family where someone's not, what's up, LG? And my kids are like, Daddy, you know everyone. Like, guys, this has been my space for 25 years in a different environment, to be sure. Yeah. I've had that for 25 years. That also is going to, new versions of that will wane. Yeah. Yeah. But the beauty of, again, it's the way that the Lord wired me. But the beauty of the space that I'm in now is that I just get to invest in a completely different way. I've said this to a few people over the course of the last couple of weeks, and it's a great asset of mine. It's also it could be a really dangerous thing. I don't know how to do anything halfway. at all. I only know how to jump in head first and go all in. That's what was hard about my first week here. I literally came home on day 2. Mindy could see it on my face. I came home and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "I think I might have made a mistake."
Oh.
But the issue was, and this is my own thing, I immediately started to realize how much I didn't know how to do well, and that's hard for me to not know how to do something well. But I think what I'm excited about in this new season for me is to get to love on people, to get to serve a church that I love deeply at a different level, and to see new fruit in different ways start to come out, to get to talk and pray and lean into the lives of people in very different ways. I'm not challenging this 14-year-old, to care more about the work ethic that he has. Now I'm getting to challenge people about like me, knowing how to navigate dependence on Christ well. Like I'm excited for the season, but it is indeed a shift for me, for sure. It's a weird one.
Yeah. I mean, not only is it just like literally a deep neural pathway of routine, like
Deep
that
pathway.
itself is hard to change from, you're going to go through, like, it's real grief.
Yeah.
In mourning a season of life. You're in that Ecclesiastes moment of you work your whole life and then that you have to let the kingdom change hands, and what will happen to it will happen
Release
to it.
the keys.
Yeah, release the keys.
What's the phrase? The dew that's here in the morning and gone in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just this vapor.
Yeah.
Sure.
It feels like such a long. It
Yeah.
feels like such a long time.
And some
for
of it's
me.
none of your business of what happens
You
to
know
it
what?
next.
You're right.
You're not alone. The three of us are in this,
I know.
in the same space, same
Yeah.
headspace. It's good. It's good.
We're going next into chapter 12 in Matthew starts to talk about Sabbath and
Yep.
rest,
Yep.
which again,
Oh,
to
no.
your point, is like here it comes. Have you started thinking about that? Where are you?
I have started
Okay.
to think about that, and I have started to shift, and speaking to Peter a bit as well around, because I can keep on the hardcore track here
Yeah.
with the Sabbath and just be like, you people don't rest, or I can speak on the blessing of a Sabbath and the joy and the love that comes from that space of rest.
Yeah.
So I'm wrestling with it, and redefining the Sabbath not as a duty but as a place of love and
Yeah.
a place of, you want intimacy with Jesus, that's the place to find it, So kind of linking with this week and the yoking, but going, it isn't about what you do, like the harvest, and he picks the wheat off the, and I'm just like, okay, so I'm wrestling with it. We'll see how it goes. Trying to stay focused on Jesus as the author and the perfecter of my faith, not what Crae's will is,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I remember some of my, as I was kind of getting into really, happened kind of midway through my 20s into my 30s, but when I really started to like enjoy listening to good teaching, and I started like, I want to know more, and that's where kind of my desire for good biblical knowledge, because I grew up in the church, but as a young man you can sit under it and not really care because everyone else is doing all of the telling to you.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, but I remember, I don't know if I'm going to get to preach on any of this, but I remember hearing that idea that the Sabbath being something that unless we're sometimes told to realize it, the very wiring of the way that we work, that a person who doesn't understand, the intrinsic need for rest, like there is a genuine lack of balance in a life, and we can put such onus on, you try this on 5 people today, like, how you doing? Busy, real busy, man, I'm slammed. That we have such a tendency to want to respond in the way, and you know what people don't do very often? How you doing? Man, I'm just resting today. The Lord is good.
Such a good space.
I have such a good space. And I just remember like starting to hear teaching on the Sabbath and it being a command for a reason, because the way that we are wired to have a moment of like intentional rest. I don't know. It just was really interesting. And then of course learning that, the way that we Sabbath, Sunday isn't a Sabbath for people in ministry. It's a work day. So when is your Sabbath? And just knowing that at the end of the day, the routine of 6 days on and 1 day off is it's just a very real call.
And what are the trigger points? So we sometimes don't connect the dots. It's like, if I'm not resting correctly and in line, again, in step with Jesus, and I'm not resting, my physical being goes out the window.
Absolutely.
I get sick. I get, my emotional state goes out the window. I get grumpy. I get, Deline and the kids get the brunt of my...
my wife and kids, man, I hear you.
Yeah, it's like a whole thesis on family dynamics in ministry, right? But everything gets disassembled and unaligned with Jesus. So the Sabbath is a great telltale of where your soul's at. And I think sometimes we miss, I'm not feeling, like I'm really feeling gross today. I'm like, my physical body is just like, and we don't connect the dots of why Jesus instills it and says, take the rest.
Yeah.
Like you're in that season, take the rest because you don't know the other parts and we don't connect the dots, the emotional state, the physical being of who we are. It's like when people come at me and they're, I'm sick, okay. When last did you actually just take a break and allow your body to recover? All of these things are intertwined and we kind of isolate them in their different departments. They're great telltale signs of, hey, man, I'm not in a good space.
I mean, if we can't obey a command to just be with Jesus, we're in a rough spot. Which, I mean, and I talk about myself though too. I was reading a chapter of the Screw Tape Letters that really just so convicted me, and it was all about like, hey, in order to keep them away from the Lord, we have to either keep them in the present or in the future.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because the present is the closest we can be to eternity, which is what the Sabbath is.
As my sermon's being written as I'm talking, I'm just going to go listen to this again, and here we go. Thank you,
because
Sarah.
Here's the thing. The Lord does not hate work. Like Sabbath is not like, you are not closest to the Lord when you're not working. I think work is a gift from the Lord to give us a part in his plan. So that's not what Sabbath is. But the Lord also knows us, that in order to be present, he's got to get us out of that future planning. He's got to get us out of that replaying the past and get us into the present. And that's where we're closest to him.
That's good.
But it's hard.
Dang, that's
where we redefine our identity.
That'll preach. Well, we can drop we'll drop the mic there. That was good. Yeah. That was good. Well, good chat, guys. I didn't know where that was going to go. That was fun.
We didn't either. We were nervous.
You get 3 people in here just to talk. Again, we're Matthew 12, verse 1, right?
Let's go.
Next week, and then we'll be wrapping up the Kingdom in Conflict. We just started it, but I think we've got about 4 weeks or so left in that, and then you've got to tell me what we're going to call the next chunk. Get on that, would you?
I have some ideas.
So that I can rest. Get that taken care of.
Let us rest.
Let us rest. Cool. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you later. Bye.